Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce lab by Ecomcy, the place where you're gonna learn everything related to Amazon FBA and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you Piero Perera, who is one of the account managers at AVASK. And today we actually have a very interesting topic, which is gonna be the 12 steps to consider throughout your seller journey. So we're gonna be talking about the very early beginnings when it's just getting started with your business, all the taxes, all of that, all the way to actually exiting your business in your Amazon journey. So, Piero, thank you for being here. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm very good. Thank you for having me, Vincenzo. This is such a pleasure. I'm a big fan of your shows. I've regular, especially on LinkedIn, and I appreciate you bringing in this part of it. Obviously, I'm one of the account managers here at Avask, and as you may know, we are possibly post-Brexit experts by now, and we're
Yeah.
dealing with the VAT side of things. However, there is a genuine shift in understanding the whole world of e-commerce,
Yeah.
and from my personal perspective, the VAT side of things is incredibly boring. I'll be
Yeah.
completely honest about that. And there's many providers that will speak about you to you about the VAT side of things. I want to kind of go away from that and give genuine content for sellers that you've said that are starting the journey, and sellers that are towards the exiting and ending the journey through Amazon and selling in e-commerce. So thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this episode is gonna be very important for everybody that is a bit confused about what are actually all the steps you need to go through from getting started to, as you say, exiting the long term, because there are so many moving parts whenever you're actually doing an e-commerce business plan. And the purpose of this to make sure you understand what are all the things you need to keep in consideration so you can have your business running as efficiently as possible. So maybe let's get started with one of the first points, which is where Avask, of course, specializes, which is the beginning in terms of your business information, getting all the paperwork done. So tell me a little bit about that and what things people should consider on that first instance when getting started. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the business formation. I think when we deal with businesses, most businesses will be already set up by then, right? So whatever e-commerce you have ours deals with, a company that comes into towards us, they already know more or less what they choose. Obviously, we're based in the UK. We have UK and US accounting. In the UK, you have three options. You can work as a sole trader, you can work as an LTD or an LLP, which is a limited liability partnership. An LTD is a standard company that most people and most companies will decide to go for because it gives you a fixed corporate tax rate when you obviously file on your annual filings and you show your sales and you pay that corporate tax on your turnover. Similarly, sole traders is one of the most popular ones for startup businesses on Amazon
Yeah.
because you can start with individual accounts, and as you gradually grow, you can start thinking about registering for VAT. You can think
Mm-hmm.
about registering a company. Similarly, in the US, I know for a fact that a lot of foreign entities will register for LLCs in the US because it's a huge facilitator thanks to
For
the
sure. Mm-hmm.
IRS and how easy it is to pay taxes in the US, and because of double tax treaties as well.
Yeah.
For many companies that are growing in the US and have owners and directors that are resident in the US, maybe applying for an S corp and converting from an LLC to an S corp can be beneficial in terms of being able to in terms of taxation. However,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't get your 401ks, you wouldn't get your pensions. So there are completely different options in terms of business formation. It's completely down to each business and how you want to operate on how it works. Then,
Yeah.
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's interesting that you mentioned all these different scenarios because sometimes we have the misconception that when it comes to business formation, it's just a copy paste procedure for every single person, and that's not the
Yeah.
case. That's why you have
No.
people like you guys have asked that you will actually audit the situation of the person and advise based on the situation what is the most efficient way to basically do your business formation so it's tax efficient and all of that depending on your country and so on. Very
Absolutely.
important.
It's better suited to some people. It's completely down to the business that you want to run and how you want to pay your taxes and deal with and how you want to expand as well. And sometimes it's one way is actually for the 12th point, we're going to talk about exit. Sometimes it's easier to have one than the other.
Yeah,
And yeah, just
for sure,
increase.
for sure.
The other point, the second point that we wanted to really look into it, and I think most businesses that come to us will have this sorted and will have an idea on what they do. But there are also companies that facilitate this out there, and that's the inventory sourcing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where are you buying the product?
Yeah.
What in terms of the business that you deal with, in terms of what sort of experience have you been able to get?
Yeah, when it comes to sourcing, I mean, it's been a mixed feeling in terms of the countries people are using for sourcing, because after what everything that happened with the pandemic and so on, a lot of people started to shift from sourcing everything from China to test other countries to have, diversification and be able to, be resilient during these difficult periods. So some of our clients now, for example, are testing more India, Vietnam, Thailand. Some people also is shifting to, for example, Mexico. I mean, one of the big plus of, for example, Mexico, and the reason it's being so much noise in the space about Mexico is because, first of all, you got everything that has to do with the nightmare of dealing with shippings and waiting times from
Yeah.
coming from China all the way to the US, and then you also have basic trade tariff things that you can take advantage between the US and Mexico depending on the material and the product. That if you're very smart and you know how to take advantage of that basically trades that are between both countries, you can even save more money than sourcing from China. So I mean, there is a lot of strategies that you can implement when it comes to sourcing. I would say the most important thing for sure is having actually a good agent that can help you with that, because at the
Absolutely.
end of the day, when it comes to sourcing, the most important thing you want to focus on is quality. I know price is also important, but there is no point on having the cheapest production and then having a product that as soon as it lands, for example, on
Great
Amazon,
point.
it's going to give you 1 star reviews and so on. So it's going to be always a balance between the quality, and then after that, for sure, the second thing, which is very important, is the pricing and also the terms you can come into agreement. Like, for example, if you're gonna pay everything in 60 days, 120 days, if you pay everything in advance, all those things are very important, which are part actually of we can also give you advice on that when it comes. Yeah.
That's a really good points, especially about the payment side of things as well. Especially the more units you buy, you don't want to commit too much of your cash flow because you don't know what the risk is, especially when sourcing from China, and that is the genuine truth, because there's actually so much competition between manufacturers in itself over there, And I really appreciate what you said about the shipping. It's something that's changed over the last couple of years, and I think shipping locally and sourcing locally is becoming a lot more unpopular.
Yeah.
Something that we've really thought about is finding local sourcing, especially in Europe. Understanding, is there a way to cut down the shipping costs and pay maybe a little bit of premium, but be able to have that quality product that you speak about,
Yeah.
and for a fraction of the cost because you're not paying an obscene amount on shipping and import VAT
Mm-hmm.
and duties.
Yeah.
One thing that we currently really pushing with Italian clients is
Mm-hmm.
pushing that made in Italy product.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
whole world is still wanting that Italian product.
I know.
I still think most houses, most luxurious houses and villas still have Italian tiling because
I
that is
know.
quality product,
I
and it's
mean,
something that we
I,
really
I
do
totally
push.
agree. I think even that you're here, you live here in London like me. Maybe you know this place, but there's this place called Little Italy that's very famous, right?
Absolutely.
You can find everything from Italy, and every single time you go there, there's so many pro ideas. Every single time I go there, that is pros that are not in Amazon. They're selling like crazy in retail. So
Yeah.
there's huge opportunity. And just to, I think, start concluding this point around sourcing, also consider something. Sometimes having a higher price, but maybe searching in Europe or closer to your country, it's not always the end of the world, because the way I see it is I can end up paying more for every single unit. But first of all, I eliminate all the overhead and stress of needing
And the
to
waiting
understand,
time
yeah,
as
waiting
well.
time, logistics, delays, getting shipment lost, and all of that. And second of all, which is the biggest plus for me, is that even if I'm paying more per units, I'm not gonna have the issue of going out of stock because I have my production in my same country,
Yeah.
and I can do, deal with issues very fast, right? And need to wait 30, 60 days. So also consider that it's not always pricing, it's also things such as time and quality that are also important to consider.
Yeah, completely agreed. Completely agree. I want to go to the third point, and I think that this is an essential part of it, and this is where you and Ecomcy come in, and have you brought it, I think, an essential part of the kind of ecosystem that we work in e-commerce, and that is a mastermind, someone
Yeah.
that can give you with a launch strategy. The content that you put out there on a daily and weekly basis has become essential for many of these startup businesses, because you do need the guidance. And one point that I'm going to stress over the next few steps is the importance of outsourcing your help, because in so many ways, these 12 steps are incredibly hard to do on your own. It's
Mm-hmm.
near damn impossible. I'll
Yeah.
happen to say that. Hence why someone like yourself that can generally be seen as a mastermind, that knows, that's gone through the experience, can really help. So if you could tell me a little bit about how you have guided businesses in terms of the launch strategy, the mastermind behind it.
Yeah, I would say launch strategy is one of the most important things when it comes to selling on Amazon. Because I mean, you need to consider that even if you have an amazing product, if you don't do these steps correctly, you can end up affecting the success this product can have just for by making a beginner mistakes. Like you don't understand maybe how to properly optimize your product listing. You don't know how to use the right images for your product. You don't know how to actually advertise on on your competitors or the right keywords to make sure you can basically start getting that snowball effect of sales and get your positioning. So there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to launch strategy. I would say that's why it's very important always to either educate yourself and try to have as much knowledge as possible to be ready as soon as the product lands, you know what to do. And ideally, with all our clients, even before the product even start production, we already know how we're going to launch it, because the other big mistake when it comes to launching the launch strategy is a lot of people think it's an afterthought, and it's just something you figure out once the inventory is within Amazon. But actually it's the
Yeah.
opposite. You should have all these clear and well defined, because otherwise you might encounter yourself having a container of a product in the UK, for example, and then you don't know how to actually sell it because you didn't took the time to actually understand the avatar of your audience, how to actually market it, and how to efficiently actually sell this product within the Amazon and compete with others. So I would say for sure educate yourself around this. And I would say educating yourself is not always about making this yourself. It's also about the fact that if you don't educate yourself, you most likely are not going to be efficient when it comes to also hiring other people to do it for you, because then when you end up hiring somebody, you're not going to even know what they're doing. Or I mean, you don't need to know all the micromanagement of what they're doing, but at
Yeah.
least the high level of what means PPC, what means exact
Yeah.
match
Yeah.
campaigns,
Absolutely.
the basics, because you as the owner of your business need to understand at least the basics around all different areas of your business. So very important, and for sure try to work with professional, like for example also that Ecomcy, that can help you with that side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great point about who you're outsourcing to is a great point, because not knowing what they do can be really frustrating, because
Yeah.
you're paying for a service and you're thinking they're not doing. Maybe they're doing a lot. Maybe they're doing nothing like you think you are. I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. I think that's a great insight for anyone that's really thinking about it. It's all a stepping process. You want to be. I think one great advice that you always have given is the proactivity about it. If
Mm-hmm.
you say, "Oh, I'm going to make that wait," you're doing something wrong. You want to
Yeah.
be proactive. You want to be one step ahead to be
Yeah.
able to really succeed.
For sure.
Point four is our expertise at AVASK, VAT,
Mm-hmm.
the accounting side of things, and the marketplace advisory. So, as I said, I don't want to go too in depth of it. What I want to give is a couple of advices here. Is there's a number one rule that I tell all my clients. The number one rule is if you're storing goods anywhere in Europe, you must
Mm.
register for VAT. That
Yeah,
is a number one rule. That is a
easy
legal.
to remember.
Very easy to remember. If you're planning on
Mhm.
storing goods anywhere in Europe, whether it's Amazon, your own warehouse, any other marketplace in any other country in
That's
Europe,
it.
you must register for VAT. That is as
Hmm.
simple as that. And that's what we help with. We'll help with the registration, we'll help with the filing when you're selling in those countries. We can help with the B2B transactions as well. So whatever is needed in terms of that is we can do it. It's very straightforward for us because we've done it for nearly 10 years now.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think it's important. Sorry for interrupting. Just
please.
for this extra point that it is even with one single unit, there isn't really a minimum of
Yeah,
units. So, and the
there's
reason
no
why I want to
threshold.
mention this is because sometimes people get confused with the distance selling threshold, which you have a
Yeah,
minimum, but with inventory, even one single unit, yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
Even if you, yeah, if for one, it means that
Yeah,
you're storing, you're selling there, so
yeah,
you must register. So
good.
absolutely, and that's as much as as I'll go into it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
number one rule. The other thing that you'll require something called a EORI number, EORI numbers. You'll need one for the UK post Brexit. You'll need one for the UK if you're shipping into the UK, and
Yeah.
one number for the EU to clear your goods in Europe. And it's just a number that actually looks a lot similar to your VAT number, and it helps you clear the goods in Europe. And it's a necessity. It's something that we get fairly commonly. We actually include it in our service price simply because it's something that is directly related to VAT and it has to be linked to VAT. I think I've already touched up the listing side of things, and that's point number five is the listing and the localization. Obviously, we talk a lot about the Pan EU program, especially expanding US and UK businesses back into Europe after the post Brexit. What can you go a little bit into the listing optimization
Mm-hmm.
and why localization is so important?
Sure, listing localization is a super important thing when it comes to expanding to new marketplaces. And in fact, some of my presentation I've been doing overseas, like for example in Mexico, are being heavily focused on this, because when you expand into new marketplaces, it's very easy to do the mistake that if you have an English listing, you might just assume that you just need to translate them. Sometimes even people, to be cheap, they just use Google Translation, which is the
Yeah,
worst thing you can do. And it's very bad to do that, because the first thing you're doing, first of all, is you're most likely not taking consideration what we call the community in which you're going to be selling. You're not actually most likely going to talk the tonality that they relate to this product, the terminologies they use in the street, like in formal language. Most likely you're not referring to how this product might be referred to in their culture, habits. All of that is very important, and that's why when you basically want to expand to these other marketplaces, and which is something we do personally, we always make sure we use somebody that is local within our team, so we make sure those people understand those markets inside out, and they can effectively reflect that product within those communities. Otherwise, you might find yourself that when you do this translation just by using software, you might end up sometimes talking about a product that you think you did the translation correctly, but it means completely another thing. It happens a lot, for example, with our clients when they set between Amazon Spain and Amazon Mexico, even if it's the same Spanish. There are so many products that they're completely different. The same happens between Amazon USA and UK, and even Canada, even Australia. So take in consideration this. Don't just copy paste or translate your listing. Actually put you're thinking of doing the listing. In our case, we do it from zero. We don't even look at the other listing. We just ignore it. It's like doing a new product from the ground up, just to make sure you actually using the data from that market, and the reference from that market only.
and it's specific for every product that a company will do for every single SKU.
Yeah. So for example, every single product that you are launching to a new market, we will do this. Of course, if we are talking about you launch a product to a new marketplace, and then you want to launch a different color, we might for sure just use that initial parent listing as a reference. But when it comes to coming from the first time to those markets, we always start from zero. Specifically, if their products are very sensitive when it comes to instructions and features, like supplements and stuff like that, yeah, for sure you want to do it from the ground.
Yeah, amazing. Completely agreed. we'll go straight to the next point. This is something that
Sure.
I do on a constant basis, and it's either the shipping, the customs, and the 3PL and warehousing side of things, and why that becomes so important. There are facilitators in terms of
Yeah.
where you want to ship your goods. Obviously, depending on where you're sourcing. As we know, most of the companies are sourcing from China because that is the main port of
Yeah.
production. But obviously, it's fully dependent on what type of products. Actually, a lot of fashion labels go towards Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia, because that's the market is facilitated over there. All those are factors in terms of one, shipping costs, and two, where you are going to import the goods in, whether it's the US, the UK, or the EU. Okay, especially for the EU, there are countries that are facilitated towards doing it. One of the best ports to clear goods in Europe is the Netherlands. You know, Rotterdam is incredibly famous for how much they facilitate the clearance of goods. Okay,
Yeah.
then you have the PVA schemes. I don't want to bore you with this again, simply because it's a great facilitator, it's a great fat cash flow exercise. What it gives you the opportunity is defer your import VAT payments, actually save up to 20% when you import into France and up to 20% when you import into the UK. And these services are included in services like what AVASK offer you. Then you have the importance of the 3PL solution.
Yeah.
And something that is incredibly important that Vincenzo's already actually looked into is the stock limitation that you might
Mm-hmm.
have when importing goods, right? When you run into those stock limitations, what do? Are you going to ship 1,000 units because each time
Mm-hmm.
because Amazon is stopping you from doing so? No, you shouldn't, simply because, as we already touched up, the shipping costs are higher than they used to be a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, right? So having a 3PL solution, whether it's in the UK or Europe, is a game changer, simply
Sure.
because what you can do is bulk buy your products, bulk store your products into 3PL solution. The 3PL solution gives you two opportunities. It gives you one, to drip feed your goods into Amazon each time you're running out of stock. So you have a constant feed into Amazon. You're never low on stock. You're ready to keep going. And then when the stock is running out on the 3PL solution, you know to when to restock exactly, because the 3PL solutions will have their own software to tell you this item is running low, it's time to restock. Okay.
Amazing. Yeah.
At the same time, it gives you the opportunity to open up to other marketplaces, simply
Mm-hmm.
because there's competition to Amazon in Europe. You know, Amazon is obviously still the biggest player, but there are other marketplaces that are doing really well,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Q4, which is the most important the quarter in the year because of Christmas. You see
Yeah.
other marketplaces really take off. I have two really good examples in the UK. One being Etsy, because Etsy
Mm-hmm.
has those quirky products that you buy your friends for Christmas. I go on Etsy. As much as I love Amazon and I'm an Amazon Prime buyer myself, and I want my product the next day. When it comes to buying a present, Etsy is very original because it gives you those quirky products to buy your friends and your family, right?
Yeah.
The other one is Smith's Toy Store. Smith's Toys is a big company in the UK. Their sales go up, their trends on their website go up by 50% through
Wow.
Q4 because toys is the biggest part of Christmas, right? It's
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the biggest industries in Q4. So when it comes to diversifying where you sell your products, a 3PL solution helps you. It helps you drip feed and it helps you sell through those sales channels. And companies like Channel Advisor, Channel Engine come into it where they help you optimize your sales channels. Because
Mm-hmm.
in Europe, especially, what we've seen over the last few years, that Amazon is not the only player. You can really diversify
Yeah.
your sales and what your product, your niche is. And that toy example is crazy. Obviously, it's one of the biggest industries on e-commerce. Why not sell on Smith's Toys
For
if you can?
sure.
Because it gives you extra sales.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I think
And
it's
then
super important that. Yeah.
the next point is, you know how much of us knows about VAT, and I call
Mm-hmm.
myself some sort of expert in this. This next point, I have absolutely no idea where to touch up, where to understand. I know there are many players in our ecosystem, and you're one of the biggest ones, Vincenzo, and that's PPC and advertising.
Yeah,
Clearly,
yeah.
in Spain, I know for a fact that this is the most important part of this seller journey, because this is what's going to get your product going from page 10 to page 1, and page 1 is incredibly important. How do you do
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, PPC is super important when it comes to selling on Amazon. I mean, it's one of the biggest pillars when it comes to providing towards your success when it comes to launching a product. And I feel PPC is something that you need to be preparing from the very beginning. The same as I was explaining earlier in terms of launch strategy, PPC is something you also should be designing from the very beginning. Actually, in our case, we actually do it as part of our product research. When actually helping our clients and our current brands to keep expanding their catalog, because PPC is also a good way for you to understand if you actually can compete into the niche that you want to be launching on. Because a big mistake that we see happening a lot, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people struggle with Amazon, is because when they do the calculations when it comes to launching a product on Amazon, sometimes they neglect the saturation or the competition you might encounter when
Yeah.
advertising, and you might encounter yourself coming up to a market with a product that costs $20, but then you realize that the cost per click on that product is $4 or $5. So that means even if you have a perfect conversion, you're never gonna be profitable, right? So that's why you need to understand this from the very beginning. And one of the things we do a lot when it comes to PPC is we design a strategy for every single product from zero. So most of our strategies are going to be very different from product to product, and this is strictly related to the research and what the market tell us about each single product, because it's easy to fall into a trap that when it comes to PPC, you just need to do what everybody does, which is automatic, manual campaigns, exact phrase, broad, and all of that. But actually, that can go much more deeper when it comes to strategy. I mean, you need to go to the level of understanding every single keyword, to the bid level, understanding what difference on the bid can make you profitable or not, and how those bids can, as you mentioned, can actually bring you to the top placement on page 1, so you can start generating the conversion within the keywords that you have identified that work the best for your product. So over time you can gain that organic positioning on page 1, which is what in the long term is going to make your business profitable, because PPC is not a tool designed to basically generate all the sales for your business. It's actually an aid that can be used to basically enhance and support your growth. At the end of the day, when it comes to having your business on Amazon, you need to understand that PPC should, at the end of the day, just come down to a 40-30% uh, basically percentage of the total bringing revenue to your business, and the rest should be organic. At the beginning, that's going to be much more higher for sure. But my point here is that you shouldn't see PPC as a solution for your product, right? As a tool to enhance your sales, because sometimes people think that they're failing because their PPC is failing, but realistically, sometimes the reason why PPC is failing is because there is a fundamental issue, and most of the times it's a product, or it's just the market. You are just selling on a market that there is so much saturation and it's a race to the bottom. And regardless of the PPC strategy that you do, even if the same um, strategy that you might be seeing other brands working, it might not work with you just because of the product itself is not ideal. So very important you consider those points, and if you need support with that, yeah, we're more than happy to help you with that. I mean, that's what we do on a daily basis.
That's really, really good. I think the main phrase that you said, that PPC is a need for growth. It's a need for growth, and I think that's a fun. It's a great point. As I said, it's the
Mhm.
most important part of this journey. The next point is something that I've already touched up, and it's something that I find incredibly important, and it's actually the platforms to sell on and the new marketplaces out there.
Yeah.
Um, on a constant basis, so the main customer bases that I deal with are mainly US and the UK, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
UK businesses are used to it. They've seen it, they've bought on different marketplaces.
Yeah.
For US businesses, it's really hard to comprehend because Amazon is such a big player. I would say in many ways in the US is more or less a duopoly, where Walmart, being such a big company, being the biggest
Mm-hmm.
company in the world, are trying to kind of eat away at that Amazon.com margin. And then you
Yeah.
have Etsy, which is more of an alternative marketplace. As I said, it's more for those quirky type of products. but Amazon.com is such a big player in the US. In Europe, there are so many other players.
I know.
And not because we don't like Amazon. Amazon, I'm still the most of the products that I buy as a consumer is through Amazon, but
Mm-hmm.
there are other marketplaces that really help. So in the UK, there's still space for eBay. Etsy is still a big player, as I already said. For toys, there's Smith's Toys. There's Frugo. There's so many, OnBuy, so many different marketplaces. Wish, even rebranded to be able to target new businesses because there is genuine opportunity for all of these marketplaces. And it's important that by country that you have a niche strategy because in each country there are new marketplaces up and coming. In France, for example, the Cdiscount, the Bon Coin. In Spain, if you are a DIY sort of product seller, there's Mano Mano, which is a fantastic marketplace that's launched in the UK as
Mm-hmm.
well. These are factors to consider. In Poland, Amazon isn't the biggest marketplace, and
Yeah.
Poland is a huge country which with a huge consumeristic population, where Allegro is the biggest marketplace, and followed up by Amazon. So it just shows there is plenty of opportunity, and as I said again, having those companies as channel advisors really help you get those products out there as much as possible so you can sell as much as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's nothing wrong with diversifying,
Yeah.
it just helps you. I think it's just another way for you to get another sale.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to marketplace, yes. I mean, whichever marketplace you find that can definitely add value to your business, for sure, give it a try because um, I don't see it as a extra complexity to my business, which for sure is gonna add. I actually see as a miss opportunity in terms of revenue.
Yeah,
Every single marketplace you're not trying is revenue that you are not having. So I mean, you better just try that and give it a go because in most of our clients, actually, when we give it a test to this new marketplace, that sometimes they are smaller in those all these countries you
yeah,
already mentioned, where we have partners that can help with all these smaller marketplaces. We have found that in most cases, if your product is the right product, it's actually extra revenue that is always worth the hustle to do an investment on. So definitely don't close your mind just to Amazon, which we are so used to Amazon because it's so easy, you send inventory and
yeah,
that's it. I mean, I know you get used to that and it's
yeah,
addictive sometimes, but for sure, try to give it a test to this other marketplace, especially if you are in the USA. For example, Walmart should be a no-brainer. In Latin America, Mercado Libre, and so on. Yeah.
yeah. Great point. And it's a genuine truth of what you said. Amazon has facilitated so much that we're spoiled. At the same
Yeah.
time, Amazon can give you those difficulties that you so sellers hate. Those new marketplaces will not have those facilitators, but will also not have those complications they can give. So it's like a pro and con list that you really have to look into and kind of look at what's best for your product.
For sure.
The next point is sales analytics, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very straightforward. It's something that you know how to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
think is the main point about it is know your data, know
Yeah.
exactly what's going on, know your best cues, know your worst cues, know what to drop, know what to push on PPC, know what not to push on PPC. Yeah, I think that's an incredible part of knowing your data really helps you expand the business. Companies like Limworks are essential, I think, in many
Yeah.
ways when you're developed in some sort of way. I don't think it's something that is essential straight away for startups because you are trying to get your sales up there. But
Yeah.
once you developed, I'd say that sales analytics really pushes you and makes you understand your full range of products.
Yeah, I think that the reporting is also a key thing here because a lot of times when I talk to sellers, they tell me, okay, I'm making this amount of revenue, but when you ask them what is the profit, you will be surprised. A lot of them don't know. And sometimes when we even do audits on the accounts, you may find a lot of people they were running negative for a long time and they never knew because they don't do the right analytics and reporting. So that's why for us, we try to always keep reporting on a weekly basis and monthly basis. And this is something you should also try to figure out if you don't want to hire somebody in house and understand how to clearly always have the cleanest numbers when it comes to understanding what is happening from A to Z because small things that you keep carry on in your accounting or your PPC expenses and all of that, if those mistakes keep building up over time, you easily can go into the red, and by the time you figure out, that could then be difficult to fix, and also it's gonna damage, for example, things that we're gonna be touching next, such as the exit. It can lower your multiples and things like that. So always make sure you have your business as clean
Great
as
point.
possible, and do the most reporting possible. And there are so many tools out there that with a single
Yeah.
button they will connect with your Amazon account, and you can have all those numbers. So there isn't an excuse of why you're not doing it.
Yeah, completely agreed. Completely agreed. Right, we're nearly coming to the end, and the point number 10 and point number 11 are interlocked,
Yeah,
simply because point number 11 is the importance of your home bank account. Give you the one that's most suited to you and give you the best rates in terms of dealing with your local market.
yeah,
Secondly, is that digital wallet,
yeah,
that currency transfer company. Companies such
yeah.
as Payoneer and OFX
Hmm.
are incredibly, incredibly important. Simply because, as simple as when you finally get paid by Amazon, okay, you are selling in a different country, you are finally expanding to different countries, and each different country has a different currency. On a weekly basis, you expanded, your product is doing well, you've done everything, your PPC marketing campaign is working, and you don't have a currency transfer company dealing with your products and your sales. Every time you get paid by Amazon, Amazon is taking 3 to 4% on the exchange rate.
Yeah, big one.
And when you're a big seller, the bigger the seller you are, the more important this is, because the more you are losing if you don't have one.
Yeah.
And that percentage rate, you're going to be lose money regardless. That is the truth. There is no fair world when it comes to currency change. It should be exactly what the currency exchange is on the day, but that's impossible. It's not something that you can do. So you want to pay the least amount possible, and companies such as Payoneer and NoFX
Yeah.
do that on a regular basis. And it's not just being paid by Amazon, it's paying your B2B transactions, paying your suppliers.
Suppliers. Hmm.
That's the biggest part of it. That's such a game changer. And I think that they're incredibly essential to the part of business. In terms of your personal experience, Vincenzo, what have you seen? Why are they so important?
Yeah, I would say having a facilitator when it comes to dealing with multiple currency is super important, especially if you are somebody based in the UK and you have your business in USA, or vice versa, because just with the transactions you can lose so much money. I mean, just talking about using Amazon fees. I mean, if you don't take care of those fees and you just keep using Amazon, very bad conversions, and on top of that the fees, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, which is money you can use to keep sourcing products. You can use it for your PPC, etc. And this can be easily be solved by using solutions such as Pioneer or OFX, as you mentioned, that can easily be connected with your account. And they also, a very good thing of these solutions, that you can play around and sometimes even make money, because you can play around with the exchange rate and just make sure you change it to the highest point, or when is the biggest maybe difference in currencies, and you can even sometimes they get the biggest buck on your money. So definitely is something that everybody, if it's doing online business, should have into their daily operations. So,
Absolutely. And finally, we come to the final point, and we're nearly done as well with these steps. And it's possibly one of the most important ones, simply because most businesses that are in our ecosystem aspire to do this eventually, and
mm-hmm.
everyone does, because you want that big money payout. You do, and
Yeah,
that's completely fair, because you put in so much hard work to creating what you created so far, and that is exiting the business.
yeah,
And I think in our ecosystem, there are two magic words that everyone loves. Everyone, well, not loves hearing, but is so used to hearing now. One is aggregator, and two is multiple. The multiple one is the one that you really want to hear. Is the one that you want to be as big as possible.
yeah,
And I find our ecosystem so crazy for the amount of aggregators there are there, simply because there are so many businesses and so many funds that are ready to invest in businesses and are ready to really give you this opportunity. So I deal with aggregators on a daily basis, because Avast can help with one, the acquisition model in terms of understanding what the best multiple is actually to give to each company. We also deal with so many brands that do plan on exiting, so we can help out with, okay, this company, this aggregate is actually acquiring right now. Is this an opportunity that you're looking for?
Yeah.
So we help out with that. At the same time, aggregators have given us obviously a lot of business because it's in aggregators' best business, best interest to have an efficient expansion for the business they acquire, because their job is not just to acquire them, but to actually to keep them growing and keep them growing until they eventually sell the business as well. So what experience have you seen in terms of exiting? Because I know you have your own
Hmm.
experience and you know how to help business exit.
Yeah, when it comes to exit, I would say number one advice for all Amazon sellers watching this is from the very beginning, run your business as if you're gonna exit tomorrow. And the reason why I say this is because one of the main reasons we see people not getting the best deal when it comes to exiting is always because they didn't have the all the processes in place. Their bookings were a mess, their taxes, everything. That's where actually Avast can help you from the very beginning to be ready for exit. Because I will say, if you don't have that mindset from the very beginning, then you might end up doing decisions when it comes to expansion, strategy, and so on, that can definitely lower what we call the multiple and the exit value.
Yeah.
And that's something we actually try to advise our clients on a daily basis. And we actually have helped a lot of clients, and then work with some aggregators to help for exiting these brands, because we have found that one of the main struggle is preparing their business in terms of strategy. And just to give an example of what I mean by strategy is that when you're preparing for exit, it can be very easy to then fall into the trap of thinking, oh, to get the biggest multiple of my business, I need to have as many things going on as possible. Then you start doing, like, let's say you're an Amazon seller, you start doing things like you open your Shopify account, you start doing
Yeah.
social media ads and all of that. And then I bet you guys have seen this. It's like, if you start pouring all these expenses into your business, and then realistically they're not giving a positive ROI, then you're actually giving a bad image about the
Yeah.
potential proof
Great point.
the business could reach in the long term. Because if you didn't have anything in the first place, it's easier to sell it to investors saying, oh, we haven't tested this, so there's a potential here for you to grow the brand further. But if you show them that you tried and didn't work out, no, now it's negative for you. So those are some
Yeah.
of the things that professional like us and of us can help you with. And it's definitely important you consider this from the very beginning, so you can get the best money on your business when you exit.
Yeah, I think great points. The multiple that you get is completely related to the efficiency of your
Mm.
business. It's not who
Ah,
does the biggest jumps and the biggest
yeah, yeah,
cartwheels. It's
yeah.
not about that. It's about efficiency.
The
The
net.
less an aggregator has to change, the
Yeah,
more they're willing to pay. That is
yeah,
from experience that I've seen from the businesses that have been taken over, or we've helped be taken over. It's not
for
about the
sure,
jumps. It's not about who shouts the loudest. It's not about who is out there the most. It's about efficiency. The more efficient you are, the better your multiple will be.
for
So,
sure.
and that's from experience. Vincenzo, I thank you so much for having me on this. I've wanted to be on this for a long while. I
It's a
hope I
pleasure.
didn't bore you, because I didn't want to go on the VAT and then the
No, I
well,
love it.
on. We did say
Yeah.
we were going to do 30 minutes, but it's gone to the 45 minutes that we said. But actually, we didn't go too much in depth either. So it just shows you how much sellers have to think about to really succeed. And it's not an easy part. And I'll go back to the point I said at the start about outsourcing. Avask is here to help. Ecomcy is there to help on many of these points that we made. We can help out in so many ways. And having the right person to outsource to, as Vincenzo said, is so important as well. So we are willing to have that conversation. Should we be the right person? We're more than happy to help. And I do that on a daily basis for business expanding. And I know you do that too. And that is the last point I wanted to make. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I think this kind of content is definitely so important in the space, because there are so many people that are getting started or they already got started, and they feel sometimes a little bit lost. And these points for sure are gonna be a very nice roadmap to help you understand what you're doing, or maybe why you're not doing right. And then if you want to reach out, we'll be more than happy to explore possibilities and make sure that we can discuss how we can add value to your business. So in the meantime, Piero, I want to thank you and also all of us team, and I'm sure we're going to be doing much more content like this to keep supporting Amazon sellers. So thank you,
Can't
man.
wait. Can't wait. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
it's a pleasure. Bye.